All right, so we've got this schema, and here, let me go ahead and do this so we can see our diagram. Right, we've got our basic grocery store schema. Well, that's a bit huge. We've got a store, we've got customers, we've got products, and we've got things customers can purchase. What are some queries that we want to construct? And I think the way to do this is you can think about it like we can sort of use the story approach, just like come up with a sentence describing things that we would like to know about. You know, if you were a customer or the owner of the store or something like that. So what are some of the queries that we want to make? And it doesn't have to be fancy. We can start out with the simple stuff and go from there. So any and all. What are some queries? Or what are information
Uh,
you want to know? Let's talk about it that way. What's some things we want to know about the store and customers and sales?
okay, I got one.
Yeah,
Which customer made the most purchases?
yeah, I think that's a great one. What's some more information that we want to know? What's another one?
I'd like to do the one that we mentioned earlier, the total cost of each order.
Total cost of each order. I think that's a good one. Excuse me. And in fact, we may find that we need to improve our data model to even do that. Though it depends on what we mean by order. And I'll make this into a sentence so we can make it a question. What's some more information that we want to know and find out about?
What's the best-selling product?
Yeah, I have the same idea.
Oh, you had the same idea? Yeah, I think it's a good one. Great minds. And how about one more? What's another one that people would be interested in?
What's the total revenue of the store?
Yeah, I think that's a great one. Awesome. We've got four really good, we can call these stories, right? And each of these we're going to turn into a query. Let me go ahead and get rid of all this stuff. And let's go ahead and do this. And I think what I'll do is make this a little more active. I think in the so if anyone wants to volunteer to tackle and write the code for one of these queries, you totally can, and I can throw a live share out there and you could code it up. So let me actually start there if there are any volunteers who want to tackle one of these. And no worries, I realize that one was a little bit out of the blue. So what I think we can do is we can sort of mob code is the term, where I'll kind of like encourage you all to guide me in writing out the queries for each of these, and we can build up our queries. So let's just start at the top with which customer made the most purchases. And I think what I am going to do is I'm just going to go from the bottom up of the participants list and kind of call on people. So Sean, I believe you're at, I think it's some sort of alphabetical ordering. So Sean, help me out with this. Which customer made the most purchases? Help me build this query. And if you're not sure where to start, I think the best way to start is maybe just sort of describing in plain English what tables we're interested in and what we want to know from each table.
I guess, so are we trying to figure out what the customer ID is? Because otherwise we need to give each customer a name.
It doesn't matter because the ID uniquely identifies a customer. Customers also have email. So that is a good point. Which do you want to do? Do you want to get the customer ID or the customer email of the one that made the most purchases?
We could do the email.
Okay, awesome. So we're probably going to want to do something like this. I feel like that's a good starting point. Sean, if you want to take me to the next step of this query, you totally can. If you want to, or if you feel stuck, you can also phone a friend and pass the question on to them.
Let me think for a second.
What are the other tables we're going to need to get data from to build this query?
Could you go to your diagram, please?
Yeah, absolutely. I think that's a good call. Let's see if I can't. I don't know why it only lets it be so huge. There we go. How's that?
Yeah,
So-
that's good.
Okay, perfect.
So we're gonna want quantity from customer purchases.
Yep, we're gonna need to get the quantity of each purchase from customer purchases. And you raise a very good point about, which I had not thought about. Does one purchase where a customer buys 20 things count more than like another customer who does 5 purchases of separate things? And that is actually not explicitly defined here. So both approaches are valid, and I think it'll be really cool to look at quantity. Where else will we need to get data? From what tables and what other data do we need? And you can always phone a friend.
Yeah, I'm not really sure.
All right, who do you want to phone?
Let's see. Let's go with Michael.
All right, Michael, I've got select email from customers. I can run my query. I can get my customers, but I want to get who made the most purchases. I know that I'm going to need to look at the customer purchase table to get quantity. Where else am I going to need data? Or like, can you maybe at least describe like a next step here in terms of building this query?
Would we join? Would have multiple join statements for customers, customer purchases, and products. And then we would have to maybe use some sort of function like count.
Yeah, sorry,
To
go
count
ahead.
how many purchases, and then we group by maybe would have a group by in there as well.
Yeah, so you're saying, hey, let's join customer to customer purchase.
Yep, so we would do customers.id, or join on the customer ID equals customer purchase ID dot customer ID.
Yep. So I'm gonna I think I'll do it this way. On customers.id equals customer purchase dot customer ID. Yep.
Yep.
I love it.
And then we would also need to bring in,
in
so are
fact,
we, it says find email of customer that made the most purchases. Are we just doing the number of purchases or like the total price? And like, does quantity have anything to do with it?
that is a great question. So what do you think? Does most purchases mean quantity or price?
Maybe, yeah, I mean, maybe just most purchases in terms of like orders, and doesn't matter the number of products in the order.
I
So
think
we
that,
could just,
yeah, no, go ahead, please.
so I would think maybe just, then we, in that case, we wouldn't need products
I
table.
agree.
We would just need customers and customer purchase table.
Yep. I agree. Yeah, I think we're there. And in fact, I'll just throw into product ID quantity just so we can see more stuff in this query that we already have. Right. And I think as we're designing this, running the query as we go is not the worst idea. So I see they each made 2 purchases. Bob bought more stuff for each of his. And I like your suggestion of let's not worry about quantity yet. Let's just count up the number of purchases and not worry about how much stuff they bought for each one. And so I think you kind of were on that path because you mentioned group buy and stuff. Do you want to take us to the next step here? Or do you want to phone a friend?
Sure. So I would think if we want the customer who made the most, we would have a max function, and then we'd also need a count function probably.
Yeah, I
Maybe.
think that makes sense.
But I have to think about how to add that. And
Okay.
then we'd probably also have the group by, right? Group by email, maybe. Let's see what happens.
I think that makes sense. Group
Yeah.
by email. Did you want to add account or max to either of these other columns in the select? We can also get rid of some of these if you don't want them. So however you want me to modify this, just let me know.
For now, maybe just get rid of quantity and change that to count. Let's just see what happens with that.
Sounds good. So
So
This-
does that line up?
good. Sorry.
Does that line up with what's shown? Yeah, I mean, there's 2 and 2.
Yeah,
So then we would have another, we would use the max one, isn't it called max? To get
It-
the largest, even though they're both equal.
mhm.
Look that up.
I think you mean like this.
Something like that. Yeah, I think.
Yeah. I'm not actually sure if that, yeah, I don't think it likes that.
Wouldn't it be, would it be count as like number of purchases, and then you would have max parentheses with the number of purchases in that?
We can totally do count as number of purchases. And then let's see if this works. This may not, because again, we're really applying,
Whereas,
but we can see. Yeah, it doesn't like that.
maybe do the. What do you have a inner, like SQL, like all this would be inner of another SQL statement. And then whatever this returns, it would use this as its new table.
We totally could do that. We could make this a subquery, or a view. I do wonder, and I'm not sure if we can do this with group by, but I wonder if we can use like order by to have the biggest thing.
Yeah.
up
And then
top.
just have limit 1 in it.
Yeah, it may not, it, Postgres
I
may
mean,
not like this with the aggregate fields. I always forget, but let's see if this works or not. So that does work. And in
and
fact,
then
I'm gonna,
you want, yeah, enter another one.
yeah, I'm gonna, exactly. Let's go ahead and have, let's see, customer ID, product ID. So I think that should do it. And now let's run our query again and see what it looks like. Voila. And then you were saying add a limit?
Yep, limit of 1.
Yeah. Nice.
Okay.
Good job, man. There we go. Yeah. So we absolutely could have done this with the subquery. I did want to give you a bit of a nudge because we were almost there. And this is really the power of order by and limit with SQL queries.
Yeah, it's a lot simpler.
Yeah, exactly. Exactly. Yeah, this is awesome. Let's see, it's 11:16. So I think we have time to tackle another. And if I scroll down here, which customer made the most purchases? I think I had mentioned the total cost of each order, and I know someone was interested in that before. Should we take a look at that one and see if we can make progress on it in a couple minutes?
Yeah,
Awesome.
that looks like a good one.
Yeah, and Sean and Matt, thank you both very much for your help for mob coding. I know I kind of threw that in there. That was great. I think we're gonna try and do more and more of that as we get into the course. And I'll start like using live share and stuff as well. So what is the total cost of each order? And this one might get a little trickier. We might end up wanting to use a subquery or a view. I am honestly not 100% certain. Does anyone want to take a crack at this one? No worries. I will take a crack at it, and I think what I'll do, because I'm not totally certain if what we need to do to get this is I'll kind of try to show my process as we go, and then I'll ask some questions along the way. Also, I want to make sure that we have enough time to take a break before the retro. So what is the total cost of each order? What do we need to do to get this? An order, get the quantity, multiply the quantity by the cost of the product. Right? So I don't know how I'm going to get here, but I kind of know what I need. I need customer, purchase dot quantity times, product price for the product purchased. So this tells me a couple things. I need to join customer purchase and products. I don't know how I'm gonna do the arithmetic yet. But let's at least get this first part done. As customer purchases, I need to update this because that will get confusing. So let me go ahead and run this query. So I like to get the joins, this part working first. Now we only care about some of this stuff. I don't care about my primary keys. I don't care about the customer ID. I do care about the product ID, really in the product name, but I'll worry about the name later, I think. And I care about the quantity and the price. So let's actually do product dot name and product dot, and it's going to be product dot price and customer purchase dot quantity. And these are all plural. And I do want us to break, so we may not get to this one. So this is a little trickier. I know what I need to do here, which is take the quantity and multiply it by the price. Can I do that in Postgres? And this is going to be with some sort of function. To perform multiplications, all I need to do is specify the multiply operator between the column names. So maybe this is actually a lot easier than I thought. Let's try products. And in fact, this stuff is so long that I'm going to separate this into separate columns because I kind of see where this is going already. So I think two things to note here is it makes perfect sense that this is that simple. I had kind of forgotten that. I actually thought we might need to do a subquery or something, but I was able to break this task into parts and get the join. And then I can, Google or ask ChatGPT or do something about the next step. So I think the really important piece here is how do I break my task into parts? And honestly, Sean and Michael, I think working through that query together was really useful for us to practice and see how to do that when I'm figuring out a query. So we want the price times that. And let's see what happens if we just do that. We might need a parentheses, we might not. Look at that. Easy peasy, as Francisco said. There's a couple of things I'm going to do for quality of life. I'm going to wrap this stuff in parentheses because it makes it easier visually for me to see it, and it scares me a little, and I want Postgres to know all of that is one thing. And I'm going to call this total cost. And knock on wood, voila. So it makes perfect sense that we can do this, and this was significantly easier than we thought. I've just had my head in the world of the aggregate functions and joins and stuff that I totally forgot about the simpler but yet really useful tools that we have at our disposal with SQL, which is these basic arithmetic operators, and you can actually do all sorts of cool stuff such as addition, Boolean comparisons, and things like that. So yeah, let me just see if folks have any questions, and then let's take a break. It'll have to be a bit of a shorter one, and then we're doing retro at 11:30. Oh, and Anna, thanks for throwing up the retro doc. That is a great call. Okay, awesome. Let me go ahead and stop recording.